my February wrap up, and sorry if the camera moves. My cat is of course visiting, as he normally does when I film. I try to edit it out as much as I can. And also sorry if you can hear any road noise. I have my door, like my sliding glass door open, and I'm not closing it because it's 50 degrees and I'm going to enjoy it. But yeah, this is my February wrap up. I read 11 books this month, which is really exciting. Read and listened, I guess, to them. So please don't jump up there and knock over my tea. So let's get started. The first book is no, tea is not for kitties. The first book I read was Remembrance by Meg Cabot, and this is like the 7th book in the Mediator series, which I did do a review on, and I will try to remember to link below. And this is more of an adult novel, like it's has stronger language and it has sexuality, like more sexual content in it. So I will say real quick, there is a trigger warning for child abuse. I actually really liked like the mystery ghost story element in here that Suze and Jesse kind of by default are dealing with, and it might be my favorite, like the one I got the most emotionally invested in out of the series. Suze and Jesse, always good. I think Suze shines in an adult novel. I do wish when it comes to their relationship there was a teensy bit less of the whole like not talking to each other thing, especially for an adult book. It's like extra annoying in adult books. I read Smut by Karina Hale. And I think I heard about this from Jessica on Peace Love Books, maybe, I think. Yeah. Oh, I gave Remembrance 4 stars. Don't think I said that. This I gave 3 stars. It's like a new adult. I'd classify it as new adult. It's the first Karina Hale book I've ever read. I'm kind of mixed opinions on this book. So generally I found it entertaining. I liked the characters. There was too much sex. So someday I have plans to do a video talking about this, especially since I read a lot of romance, but this just had too much. Like, sex has to have a purpose for me personally to work. Also, so the 2 characters end up writing smut together, like self-published cheap like $1.99 reads on Amazon under a pen name and stuff, and I don't think it was meant to come across as demeaning, and I think there was supposed to be like development with the characters, but there was just a little bit too much of the like smack talking of the genre for me. Not saying that like everything that's published is beautiful works of art, but you would expect a book in that genre to be a little more respectful of the genre. Maybe that's just me. So then I read a book from my winter TBR, and that was Glitter Baby by Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and I gave this 4 stars. I had tried to read this previously a few years ago and like could not even get 10 pages in, and honestly I almost didn't get past those 10 pages again, but I pushed through this time and I'm really glad I did. So this is like technically I guess like a contemporary romance, but I would almost consider it more of like women's fiction, just because to me this book is so much more about Fleur, the main character, about her journey to like self-discovery, and it goes through like almost her whole life, and there's so much like about her mom and everything. So it's a lot. It's definitely dated, which Susan Elizabeth Phillips has been writing for a really long time. This is from like 1987, I think, so this book is older than I am. Sometimes that datedness hurts it, and sometimes it doesn't. Here it hurt it a little bit for me, but it wasn't like a huge issue. Overall, I thought it was good characters, good writing, excuse me, and good relationships. I feel like it's a book not everybody would like, but it's a very solid book. And then, you guys, I read my first Beverly Jenkins book. I think I got the wrong book though. So I ended up reading Destiny's Surrender, which is the 2nd book in the Destiny series. So I was listening to, what is this stupid thing called now? Smart Bitches Trashy Podcasts whatever the DBSA podcast is now called. And what they described is not this book, so I think I wrote down the wrong thing from their website, which is fine. So this book was not, I would not have picked this book up if I hadn't thought it was that. Not initially, anyways. So I gave it 3 stars. It's historical romance. It's American, which is not my normal genre, and it's set in California. So yeah, like I said, it didn't completely work for me. I'm also, like I said, not a big reader of American set historicals, and I feel like there's a whole nother language you need to know for American set historicals. So I think if I read more from her and other authors, that would be easier. Like, I would appreciate it a little bit more. I did like the characters, especially the heroine Billy. I think she's pretty unique. She's a prostitute and like feels no shame, and I can respect that. I will definitely read more Beverly Jenkins. The thing that really, like, why I wouldn't have picked it up real quick is because she gets pregnant and like has to go to him or whatever, and I'm just not a huge fan of babies in books, or like kids in books in general, so it tends to be something I avoid. And then I got The Scandalous, Dissolute, No Good Mr. Right by Tessa Dare, and this is a little novella. And is that blurry? Probably. I'm so, oh, real maybe. This is, don't give me that look. This is a novella. I gave it 4 stars. Tessa Dare is really good at writing novellas. It's a standalone. It doesn't fit in with any of like her existing series. It was so cute and well done, and it takes place over like several years as these characters keep like meeting and interacting. So they're almost like little vignettes, and I really liked that because it gave her the opportunity within such a small word count to really develop these characters and their relationship. It was so cute. I loved it. Then I listened to Not Quite a Genius by Nate Dern, and he is the senior writer for Funny or Die. I was just looking for like nonfiction audiobooks on Overdrive, and this came up. It is some nonfiction, it is some fiction, like some like short stories that he wrote that are a little weird. It kind of comes across almost as like a collection of essays, sort of. It was funny, a little odd, a little weird, like I said. It was fast. He read the audiobook, which was great. And then I did a reread because I said in my Hathaway's review I'm going to be doing another series reread and review, and that is going to be of The Bridgertons by Julia Quinn. So I reread The Duke and I, which I own as an ebook. This is the first book in that series, because of course I'm going to read them in order. I gave it 3 stars. It's historical romance, of course. It definitely has the feel of like an early 2000s romance, which is part of why I want to read it and review it. It's a cute enough story. I love the Bridgertons as a family. But Daphne, the heroine, does some highly questionable things that make me like super cringy. So yeah. And then I read Natural Law by Joey Hill, and this is, I think it's classic, yeah, it's erotica. And this was another like DBSA, whatever they're called now, recommendation. I think Amanda had recommended it. It's the second book in the Nature of Desire series. It's a BDSM story, and it's actually really old. Like, I've started keeping track of my books by publication that I'm reading just to see like trends or whatever, and it's from the early 2000s, and I mean, this is just me being ignorant, but it's so crazy that like this is pretty intense, at least for me. Maybe it's not really that intense, but it was pretty intense for me. And it's like there was this world before 50 Shades of Grey. Like, I complain sometimes about how people think romance started with 50 Shades, and it didn't, but like neither did erotica and neither did BDSM stories. So it's not necessarily my cup of tea. Like I said, I don't read a lot of BDSM, But I do like being exposed to different point of views, like different lifestyles. I feel like that word has a negative connotation, but that's the only thing I can think of. And I think that Joey Hill does a really good job of analyzing the showing the psychological aspects of things, of sex in general, but BDSM. And that kind of goes into when like there's too much sex in books, it's because it needs, like I said, it has to have a purpose. Now this was a lot for me, but I kind of knew that going in, but every sex scene had a purpose, like to these characters, their development, their like connection with each other, all of those things. So and I would actually read other books in the series, potentially, not like immediately, I need to be in the mood for them, but it's pretty interesting. If you have any recommendations, feel free to let me know. And then I read Brooklyn Air by Sarina Bowen. So excited, and I gave it 5 stars, 5 wonderful, beautiful stars. And this is the 4th book in the Brooklyn Bruisers series, and oh my gosh, it was so cute. It was exactly what I wanted, exactly what I needed. I loved Nate and Becca. I just like, so it's like seeing 2 of your friends like fall in love and live happily ever after. And Sarina Bowen handled this type of story so well. So since Nate owns the Brooklyn Bruisers and Becca is his employee, I think you have a lot of potential issues for like a power dynamic problem. It's actually why I avoid a lot of boss employee stories. That's not particularly a story type or trope that I like, because I think it's problematic, and especially in current time, it's very present, I think, on people's minds. And she did a phenomenal job of handling it, of having these characters like acknowledge it, address it, think of it as a potential issue, all of those things. I loved it. And then I listened to another audiobook, and this one is called Friends Divided by Gordon Wood. And this is about John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. I gave this 3 stars. It's nonfiction, it's history, obviously. It kind of covers both like their histories individually, but their evolving friendship and relationship, really, because it wasn't always a friendship, over their differing political opinions, because they had 2 very drastic differences. And I did learn some new things, especially about Adams. Like, there was a lot I didn't know about him, I guess. I thought I did, but I didn't. It was a wee bit too long for me, though. A wee bit. And then the last book I read, I actually just finished today, and it is another book on my winter TBR, and that is The Law of the Garbage Truck by David Paulet. I don't know. This is a nonfiction book, sort of like a self-help maybe-ish kind of book. It talks about not accepting and not spreading negativity, garbage throughout the world, and keeping that out of your life and family and work and all of those things. It's a really good message. It's a pretty easy read, like it's very short chapters and stuff. And being more positive is something I have been focusing on for a few years, so I did get some ideas from here. So yeah, that is my February wrap up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, recommendations, anything like that, feel free to leave them down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!